Monday mornings with Matt and Kevin.
Welcome into Monday Mornings with Matt and Kevin here on the Catholic Family Podcast.
The following segment contains adult content and may not be suitable for young children.
These two will debate real-life issues from a Catholic perspective every Monday at 9 Eastern. Topics that come up around the dinner table will be given the truth treatment with no punches held and no falsehood left standing. Sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Matt and Kevin.
Good morning. Good Monday morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you're enjoying your coffee from Krispy Kreme, or where do you get your coffee from, Matt?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. I'm
You
sorry.
know that.
My apologies, Krispy Kreme. How
I have
dare
a cup right here, actually.
I saw you drinking something.
saw it
like
earlier,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, right. I saw it. I was like, okay, Matt's drinking some. So
New
Dunkin'
England.
Donuts, wherever you're drinking your Monday morning coffee. Mine is from a thermos, homemade coffee. We drink Italian coffee, Lavazza. It's actually quite good. We save a lot of money making our own coffee, and it's actually pretty good. It's really weird though. It's actually temperamental. Like some days it tastes great. On some days it's like, what the heck happened to the coffee? And I don't know. Same machine. I don't really know. So it must be. I think we've learned really clean out your coffee pot very consistently, because that really makes a difference. Anyway, we're not going to talk about coffee too much. Actually, that'd be kind of fun.
We could.
Matt and I could.
I have a lot to say.
Matt, okay, we're going to totally do that. We're going to have a foodie show. Matt, I'm having a brilliant idea. We're going to have a live foodie show. Dude, this would be amazing. We're going to have people commenting. We're going to talk about Italian food and coffee and stuff. This is brilliant.
That'll be fun.
This is coming immediately to my mind, but we're going to do this. We're going to talk about this after the show. We're going to totally do this one of these days. Live show, foodie show. Join us then. We'll tell you more.
You get a free meatball if you listen.
Yeah, exactly. We'll mail it to you. We'll mail you a meatball in an envelope. Anyway, happy Monday to everybody. And today we're going to be talking about some stuff that's it's more adult material. So even though our intro was a bit light, the topic today is going to cover some of the stuff that it is very unfortunately in the news pretty much every day these days, and that is the transgender topic. We'll talk about other things as well, but I think we're going to kind of meander along the entire topic of the transgender issues and, kind of see where it goes. We have lots of opinions on it, but of course, as you would expect, it is adult material. So we would recommend, if you're listening with your kids right now, it's probably best that you turn it off, save it for later, maybe determine yourselves if it's fit for your children. Of course, we're not going to get too down and dirty about it, but it's such a gross topic that, it's not really worth it. And it may be for you too. I mean, some people are sensitive to this type of thing. So, maybe you, wait till next week for a little more lighthearted one. But I think it is an important topic, unfortunately, because it is in the news so often. We're going to cover it. We're going to give our opinions on it and tell you kind of what's going on. So, Matt, where do we want to begin with this horrid business?
Well, yeah, I wanted to kind of just start the whole thing by sharing the title of the movement that has been going on in recent days, recent weeks. And the telethon event, they had this telethon event in which all of these drag queens and all these drag performers tried to push their agenda of that this stuff is good and fun and lighthearted and innocent, really. So the event was called Drag Isn't Dangerous. That was the name of the event. And it was a joint effort between Hollywood, of course, and the LGBT alphabet soup here, celebrities, where they hosted these events in hopes of raising money for major LGBTQ groups. Now, when I read that, it made me think of a meme that said, I donated to the LGBTQ groups. I hope they find a cure. That was something that came to mind when I read that. But so basically what has been going on here, obviously in the news, and the story has been kind of developing, but there has been this push really for drag performances before children. That seems to be a goal of theirs that they cannot let go. They have to do these performances, these ridiculous acts before kids, and do them in rather public spaces, libraries, for example. And so there have been our share of quote unquote red states that have pushed back. Tennessee, Texas has said, absolutely not. We do not consent to this being done publicly before our children, right? So then and there, it shows me that there is a sense of morality in which we say, you know what, these are things, this is material that our youth should not be exposed to, right?
And real quick, before you continue, I want to
Yeah,
give you an ABC because I'm really
yeah.
curious to get your very basic thoughts on this. I want you to tell me why are they doing this? And option A is they are doing this in order to try to corrupt the next generation. Option B is they are trying to get themselves murdered so that they will start some sort of transgender war, or it's not a race war, but it's a well, I don't know what you call it, a war of a party war, I suppose, or option C, both.
Oh, I totally think it's C. Always go with C. Your gut instinct
Yeah.
is C. Go with C. So here's where I was going to go.
Matt
So
failed high school, by the way.
middle school, just circle C. So here's where I wanted to read. So and then I'll kind of make some comments really quick. So this was their slogan here. These drag events are not a dangerous campaign. We want to show that drag performers are not dangerous groomers, sexual deviants, criminals, or whatever else the latest evangelical slur is against us. We want to raise awareness and funds to make a difference in the lives of LGBTQ people who are under attack. So, to kind of answer your question, put my phone away there because I was just reading. My personal scope of the whole situation here is that they realize that the youth will one day be in power. I think that is actually a core of what they are doing. How you shape the generation, how you shape the culture influences generations to come. Because what I think they're trying to do here is, right, correct. Yeah, exactly. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. What they're trying to do is take these kids who really, and it's funny, if you watch some of the videos, some of the kids are disgusted by it. And it just shows again that there is this natural order about young children that they realize something is wrong, right? They realize something is off. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to see it. So what they're doing is they're trying to brainwash all of these kids into thinking that this stuff is okay and that this is what needs to be pushed. Now, I think personally that there is, without a doubt, a demonic force behind it. This stuff is satanic. This stuff is certainly out of the pits of hell. Therefore, it drives it even further. Satan's very powerful and he's very successful. In fact, you look at a lot of successful people in either music or government or wherever, and a lot of them have made these pacts with the devil, and it's because of that they've gained a lot of power and wealth and influence. And I think that there's a lot of demonic help here, a lot of assistance that's really pushing this. And go ahead, Rick.
I was just saying, and I think part of it is that I totally agree with you. I mean, 100%. You can tell, you can see it. I mean, if you watch any of these videos, which please don't, but if you happen to see them, you can tell it's demonic. I mean, there are devils involved in this, unquestionably. But I think that, again, you see that they are. I think it's really interesting because they're a huge minority. I mean,
huge.
They're
right.
a tiny minority.
Nothing. Right.
They're nothing. And you'll see. I saw this poll going around that 20% of Americans are now labeling themselves as LGBTQ. Bull crap. That is not possibly true. No way. Yes, sir. You can tell me all you want that 20% of people. Polls are stupid. Now, look at the last elections. Polls don't work in general. Maybe you can get a vague idea. Polls don't work. Anyway, so maybe it's a tiny percentage. Now, I think what might be happening, and I think this happened during the COVID issue as well, that they are pushing to see what they can get away with. What can we do to the general populace and their children and get away with it? And I think that it's a test for who knows what. Maybe it's just a test just to see. I mean, because they want to see, how far they can push us. And maybe it's the devil. Maybe it's the devil saying, hey, how far can I push the good people of the world, the decent people of the world, the Christian people of the world before they do something? And honestly, Matt, most states don't do anything. They see this stuff and they complain on Twitter, oh, this is terrible. And you know what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And it's funny how there's this, I've talked to a lot of people about this sort of issue, right? And they'll say, for the most part, similar to abortion, I don't support it. I don't like it. I don't, I don't want to see it. I don't want it shoved down my throat. But there's always that little caveat here. But, I'm not gonna, get upset at what you do in private. And that is pretty much the consensus of people that I've talked to. So
It's
I think that
libertarianism.
it's libertarianism.
Which is, and libertarianism is condemned by the Catholic Church,
for
guys.
this very reason. That slippery slope allows it in, rather than condemning this and saying absolutely not, this is not permissible, it needs to end. We have our quote unquote our personal beliefs that we don't want to force upon anybody else, and that's what allows this stuff to creep in, right? And before you know it, they're their own victim here. They're their own. They say, don't shove it down my throat. Well, you're opening up every single door to have this stuff shoved down your throat. And they target kids because I think they want to pit a lot of children against their parents too. I think they want to have this because there's still this generational gap. I think that there are people who are young parents today who still kind of have those morals that weren't as aggressively progressive as they are today. There was a huge shift, I feel like, in the last 10-ish years. And we've talked about this before, guys. We've mentioned Obama, Biden, Clinton being against gay marriage, being against, abortion throughout all 9 months. President Clinton governed pretty moderately. So the pendulum shifted. And they're pushing these issues because first of all, I think they create patience. That how many people nowadays, they're suddenly confused about their gender and they're confused about all these sort of things. They're feeding their own market of needing counseling, needing pills, needing support, whatever. And they're almost their own money-making business. And now I think in the morality side of it is they want to take these kids and soften the entire population and how it is sensitive to these sort of issues. And I guess what I mean by that is, if you ask kids, and I think they did a video about this some time ago, talking to kids in like the 80s or 90s, right? And throw a moral issue out at them. Say so-and-so, this girl over here thinks she's a boy, right? Those kids back then would pretty much laugh. No, she's not. No, she's not. No, she's not. Now yeah, right. Gay. Now you say that same question, you pose the same question to these kids today, and they'll say, oh, maybe she feels that way. Or maybe, she really thinks she is. Or I don't want to be mean to her. I don't want to judge her. And I think that it starts off again. So I feel like I'm kind of rambling in different directions here, but it starts off so small. They push these things like kindness, tolerance. Yeah. It creeps in, right? We teach kids all of these so-called virtues that has allowed this opening.
But I mean, we see it. I mean, St. Pius X warned us of modernism, and a big part of modernism is relativism. And I know that's something we talked about on the show. But this entire idea of relativism being that there is no objective truth. It's all kind of like, it depends. It depends on this. It depends on, what do you feel? No. I mean, first of all, look at where that leads the world. I mean, and it leads the world into chaos and confusion. And children, if you're telling a child, hey, you can be whatever you want. Not, and I'm not just saying, hey, you can be an astronaut or a golfer or a talk show host. No, you can be a girl or a boy. I mean, this is like relativism times 10. I mean, this is like extreme. There's
no moral.
This is like, there is no truth at all. It's literally like this. We don't live in a reality. We live in this fake world of creativity and whatever I want it to be. It's like, Matt, we're living in a world where unicorns and rainbows are being,
and I think
I was going to say something kind of crude, but I stopped.
And I think
popping out of somewhere.
They're coming out of somewhere. But I think we kind of said this maybe a few weeks ago. The belief of all these crazy things is not, they how can I word this? They're trying to create a narrative that isn't there in a lot of ways. I think the point that I made with you maybe a few weeks ago at this point was, how many people do you really know, right? That you work with, or you've come across in different settings in sports, and I don't know, whatever you might do at the gym or wherever you might go, truly honestly believe that there are more than two genders. People don't believe that, right? We live in a pretty progressive time, and if you ask people, they don't believe that. But you listen to the media, you listen to the news, you take a look through whatever media outlet you want to look at, and they kind of push it as, well, this is the common consensus that there's 86 genders. People don't think that. So the percentage is small, like you said, and I feel like they are controlling the narrative at a rate that is a lot higher than the actual numbers show,
Yeah.
because they want to warp our beliefs, and they have certainly done so. They're successful. They have done an incredible job, because if people, uh, those who are not for it, they at least tolerate it. They at least permit it. And very few, I think, are actually like militantly, such as myself, militantly against it. I don't think those numbers are too high of saying, I mean, think about it. Uh, we used to burn people at the stake for stuff like this.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I was
Uh,
just reading. There was a heretic in the 1500s who spoke against the Blessed Virgin Mary, who spoke against the divinity of Christ, and Saint Bellarmine's response was burn him. I mean, wow.
Yeah, well, and I think that it was a very different time, and it's hard for us to even understand. The
It
idea,
is very hard to
even the
understand.
values of life and death and mortality and immortality. We can't even understand it. But I think it's also one of those things. Again, that did you see that they understood if you challenge truth, you challenge everything. You challenge the entire structure of society. You challenge you challenge safety and I mean actual freedom, not the freedom to do anything we want, but the freedom to live in
Do what we
peace,
ought,
to do
right?
what we should, and to do God's will. And I think that if you give that up, if you stop to try to find truth, and rather you just say, I'm going to do whatever I want. I mean, it's hedonistic. I mean,
Mm,
it's this, and hedonism never works. I mean, because when we give into our pleasures and our own wills, it always has an effect. And I mean, my wife and I talk about this a lot. I think that deals with science and medicine and society. It
mm.
deals with a lot of different things. That if we go against against a natural way, if we go against God's way, if it's even if it's with pharmaceuticals, and I'm not totally against pharmaceuticals, sometimes they're life saving, but
Sure.
but there is always a side effect. Always.
Mm,
Always. You cannot create something that is
always.
not natural, that just works without a side effect, because it is a comeuppance from a man-made thing. And I think we
Mm,
have to remember that if you allow society or men to create these ideas, there's always going to be a side effect. And not just for society, but for the people themselves. These drag queens, I bet you they commit suicide at a rate of 50% or something. Guarantee it. Go look it up. I
mm.
mean, they must be the most
There,
miserable people on earth.
I wish I could remember the number off the top of my head, but there was a number that came out, and it said the percentage of LGBTQ suicides, and it was pretty decent number. I don't know that maybe you said about 40 there, but I know it was a decent chunk. And somebody said, to these two people were debating, and person A said, that just shows you that, they're getting bullied and they're getting harassed, blah 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 blah. And actually the other person
By who?
replied, and he said, actually, yeah, I know. The other person replied, and he said, actually, that just proves their mental illness, because sane, healthy, clear-minded people don't kill themselves. And I thought that was a little harsh, but it's kind of true. I mean, uh, they're not doing well. There's this story, I think we've talked about this before as well, of Jazz Jennings, right? A very, very popular transgender activist here in the United States, and has recently come out and kind of said, I mean, from her birth, really, whatever, it's a male, but now is a girl, has said that she was a girl. And now there have been some leaks where she is showing that she's regretting it, right? And
Mm.
now she's gained a ton of weight. She's extremely depressed, and I'm kind of shocked. And I don't know if, and I always have a little red flag suspicion going up. Why are they airing this? But TLC, the learning channel, which airs this sort of stuff, this show, has really put this stuff out there, that she has gone through, or he has gone through all of the surgeries, all of the hormones, all of the speech therapy. You name that, the knife and the pill that went in this person's body, and they're depressed. They have gained, I think he was up to like maybe 280 pounds or whatever, almost 300 pounds, completely unhealthy. So what happened to the whole, this is just to make me happy? What happened to that narrative, right? And these drag queens, they perform in front of these kids, I think just to allow them to experiment just a little bit. And again, I think it's an invitation to sin, because I think that Satan drives this, and then he gets people to sin in this way. You know how much. I mean, St. Catherine of Siena said homosexuality is one of the sins that are even the demons can't really be present for when that sin is being committed, because it's such a sin against nature that even though they're demonic and they have a fallen nature, they're still angelic in their being, and they have a concept, a firm understanding of right and wrong. And so when they see this inverse of natural law, it kind of disgusts them, which is pretty crazy to think about. And it leads to all of these sexual sins, right? And when somebody is in the grasp of sin, right, everything crumbles there. You lose your faith for the most part, because it's very hard to have a good, strong, solid faith and constantly be in habitual sin. You're either going to have one or the other here. It's very difficult to do either way. And it's a tool of the devil, right? He's not going to come out and preach a false religion. He's going to, well, certainly, I mean, he might, but he's going to invoke himself into the culture, pervert things, induce sin, because when you're sinful, how many people do you know, Kevin? I know a lot of people myself who they have started to live sinful lives, and then they said, "Oh, I don't go to church anymore, quote unquote church. I don't go to mass anymore." You know, they have chosen this secular life of sin aside from their faith. You can't have both, and this is Satan's game plan, and it's pretty successful.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, I think if you look at the back in the day, you know, the worship of Baal, or you know, the worship
Yes.
of demons, they would sacrifice children to them. You know, I think what was that, Mesopotamia, I think,
Right.
and I think that, you know, we see that now. We see the sacrifice of children at the altar of the devil. That's just
Right.
true. That's what abortion is. We're probably going to get deleted from YouTube for this show, by the way.
We
But
might.
but that's the case.
Badge of honor.
And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think, though, when you think about it, I mean, when you have that already, and then you also consider, you know, that they're also kind of, you know, publicly perverting children. It's almost worse in a way, because then you're not just perverting, because when you abort a baby, you give that, of course you take away their chance for the beatific vision, which is an unbelievable crime. But when you pervert a child, you have the chance of perverting their soul forever. You have a chance of really truly sending them to hell. So really think about that. I mean, and so our child sacrifice, it's gotten to so extreme. It's so extreme that it's not enough to kill unborn babies. You have to then go and pervert children.
Pervert them.
We have to think about this. And again, we have to consider how important this is, and how this is war. This is WAR. This is war. They are fighting us. They want us dead. And I don't mean just dead. They want our souls in the pits of hell.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that.
I don't know if you heard Joe Biden, but last week or so, he said there's no such thing as somebody else's child. The child belongs to the state. The child belongs to the village. It's all tied in, and it kind of leads me into this here. 3 top American universities, so medical universities, Duke, University of North Carolina, and ECU, they have now started a program to help transition toddlers, for those who are confused about their gender. And by toddlers, this is from their page here, Duke will start to perform procedures and other forms of transition at age 2. Now, do kids even know all the foods they're potentially allergic to by age 2? I mean, do they even know their favorite color?
Matt,
by the
kids
age
don't
of
often
2?
know how to talk by the age of 2. Now, I mean, seriously, they don't know how to communicate. They definitely don't know how to reason. And I'm going to tell you straight up, really, truly straight up, anyone who is involved with that at Duke, any parents who do it, should receive the death penalty. They should be put to death. Firing squad, whatever you want to call it. I got no time for that.
Yes.
I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
100%.
Here comes the FBI is coming to my house, knocking on my door right now. But I mean, how do we let this happen? I mean, this stuff is so perverse, so insane. It's so beyond the realm of reality, and yet it happens.
But what do you even do? Well, I mean, they don't go into details here, but I'm just thinking, like, medically, what do you do to a 2-year-old? How do you transition a 2-year-old? I mean,
I don't want to know, honestly.
I don't even want to know. Like, I don't even want to know. What does it look like? I mean, just like curiosity. I mean, what's there to do? They can't articulate their thoughts, really, right? They're
Well, it shows
They
you
don't.
clearly it's coming from
They
their parents
barely.
who are
Right,
insane.
of course.
Their parents are insane. I mean,
It always is.
again, it's one of those things, Matt. In our society, we see that we are valuing not even
And
just valuing. We are putting absolute trust and respect and valuing insane people. Insane people, Matt. Can you imagine 100 years ago someone would say that? We're like, 911, this lady's nuts. Take her kid now. Her kid cannot stay with her because she's insane. And now we're like, oh, yay. Thank you, Duke. I mean, it's Matt. I can't even believe it. It's our world is so crazy. And again, it's an incredible thing. You look how history looks at the quote unquote dark ages, or they look at the the Spartans, or they look at the Vikings and they say, well, the Vikings, they put their babies out in the woods to sacrifice them to the gods.
How terrible, man.
How terrible, how pagan, how these guys were pretty dumb and pretty slow thinking. Hello, pagan world. Good grief.
I know. They say stuff like, it's 2023. You're forcing women to birth their children. Look at what you're forcing children to do. And I think, kids too, I worked in schools. I have dealt with an innumerable amount of young kids. They just want to play, and they don't really make the distinction at that young age. They don't make the distinction between a truck and a doll. And I think us as adults, we say, oh, look, he's grabbing a Barbie. The kid doesn't mean anything by that. He sees a toy and he wants to play with it. I really truly believe that play at that age, a lot of times you can guide it, right? You can say, well, why don't you come and maybe dig with me, or why don't you come and play with these trucks and whatever. But a lot of the times kids, they just pick up a toy if it's in front of them and just want to play and use their imagination.
I want to take your argument to an extreme, because I've known boys who had things like that they liked even through teenage years. They rather than wanting to play football, they would rather paint or organize flowers or whatever.
Course,
and
yes,
you know what?
Yes.
And you know what? That happens sometimes. And I couldn't tell you why. And it does happen. Sometimes there are actual boys who do prefer feminine things, and there are females who prefer manly things. That doesn't mean you go and chop off their organs, Matt. I mean, this is like, how crazy is this? I mean, okay, you can prefer something. Maybe you have some sort of preferences. Maybe even you're tempted to sin in terms of, homosexuality. God help you if you do. Truly. I mean, we have to pray for them, because maybe that is a temptation to some people. I don't know why. I don't think anybody knows why. Sometimes it is the case. I don't know why some people are tempted to drink 8 gallons of alcohol. That's just how it is. Sometimes people are born that way, or they're raised that way, or whatever. But this fact that we hear this and we think, oh, well, then he must be actually a girl. I mean, Matt, it's so crazy. I don't even know how we can talk about it.
The only spectrum here is something like that, right? The spectrum being, if you take a young child, a boy, and you say, well, maybe his level of testosterone as he ages, right? And that's just about it. That is the spectrum. Does he want to, go use heavy equipment to dig a hole, or does he kind of want to organize his garden, right? That's a spectrum, but it doesn't change the reality that he's still a man and he's going to stay a man, and that's all that he is, right? Can you change that? I feel like you kind of could. I feel like maybe some environmental influences could have an impact, right? Maybe parents, maybe friends that he's whatever. But for the most part, this is where you're going to be. And same with women. To think that you can take these children and transition them into, I don't even know what somebody, when you look at a 2-year-old, you can't even tell what gender they are yet, right? You see these kids and you're not sure. You tell by maybe the pink hat that they're wearing, right? Or the dress that the kid has on. You can't always look at a 2-year-old and say, oh, you're not even sure yet. The features aren't there.
Right. Well, and I think, I think some of the greatest geniuses of all time, I guarantee you, like they say Michelangelo, I bet you.
Oh, if he was
Michelangelo was more of a feminine person. I don't know that, but I think sometimes that's just how it works. I don't know why. That's how God creates some people, that they have this mix of testosterone and whatever else it is that makes them more connected with some things that we deem more feminine.
Right.
Now, take that as you will. I don't know how to take it. It's just how it is. I mean, but that's one thing. If some guy would rather go painting than go play football, then go paint. Now, what you can't do is go and say, hey, yeah, I'm attracted to other guys, so hey, cool, I'm gonna go be gay. No, that's a horrible sin. You can't do it. No, or hey, I like painting, so I must be a woman. What? I mean, sometimes things aren't as everybody else is. Sometimes people are different. That is how it is. That's true, and I think that's part of that's part of the whole case that people seem to forget, and I think that conservatives just don't even talk about. But I've seen it. I've seen people who they're not out playing football. They are working in the garden, and they're boys. And you know what? Again, they didn't go and date a guy. They didn't say, "Hey, I'm a woman." They just ended up being an adult man who can have a freaking awesome garden mat.
Yes, pretty talented.
I mean, come on. And it's just like, why does we have to always make these things? And I think this is a great example of what's been going on. We saw it with the coronation issues. Everything's hyperbolic. Everything's blown up to a 1,000,000%. And if you see something, some little sign, it's not just, oh, that's interesting, he's a little bit different than I am. No, it's like, oh my gosh, he's either an alien or he's a woman. It's like, come on.
Yeah. And I feel like too that a lot of these people they're very talented in what they do.
Totally.
Right. I mean, I think about, and Michelangelo's an incredible example, of course. I mean, probably one of the greatest artists ever to live, but probably even has me thinking of some other great minds in the church. Right.
Sure.
Maybe even some doctors of the church who are extremely intellectual, very book smart, loved to probably study and paint and draw and read and write, who weren't going to go out there and beat up other guys for fun. They're very talented in what they had, the gifts that they had, and they used it appropriately, and they lived a moral, upright, saintly, virtuous life.
Well, don't they say that I think, if I remember right, that the monk who wrote the wonderful Solemn Salve Regina, which I think is the most wonderful piece of music ever written, ever in all of mankind's history. I think he was like a quadriplegic or something. I think he was like a quadriplegic. He was definitely very, very, very handicapped. And again, I'm not saying that makes him, I'm not saying he's anything feminine or anything, but I mean, I'm just saying, sometimes not everyone is exactly like you and me. It's not like we're all built in the same way. We're not all the same level of testosterone. We're not the same, whatever it is. I don't know why. I don't have the answer. God knows why. But what we know for absolute certain is that you don't sin. You never sin. You don't fall into these things. And you just wake up to reality. And I think we need to, again, wake up to the fact that we have to fight these things. We have to speak the truth. And if it means that we lose a YouTube channel, then, as we say in Germany, so geht's the he. Such is life.
What's there's a saying in Germany. It's like, oh, I'm going to butcher this. So it's many enemies, much honor. It's like, will French will er, or something like that. I don't know. You must know. Many enemies, much honor. It's popular German, I thought, anyway.
Yeah, but enemies. Enemies in German?
Ehre,
yeah, viele Ehre is honor. Enemies. I don't know what enemies is. That's good. I don't have it, Matt. I don't have any enemies.
So you don't use the word. You wouldn't use the word. I used to listen to Father Hess say. I don't know if you know who he is. Gregory Hess, one of the Austrian. I used to love listening to him, and he used to say it all the time. But let me kind of bridge in here. Speaking of drag queen performances before 5-year-olds, I think the fruit of that is this. Here's a headline. This is out of Texas. First grader. Again, we have our disclaimer up here today. First graders, allegedly force a girl, age 6, to perform a sexual act in the classroom. Well, this is like the fruit of let's have drag queen, right? A large group of Texas parents protested outside the administrative offices in this district on Thursday, demanding actions against allegations that first grade students forced a 6-year-old to perform a sexual act in the classroom. So let me just read a few more lines here so you kind of get the gist of the story. School officials informed the girl's mother that an inappropriate video was found on a school iPad given to students. After the phone call, the mother said she spoke to her daughter, who told her that boys in her class forced her to perform a sexual act in the classroom while they filmed it on their iPad. The teacher was in the classroom working with other students. that day. So one of the parents said, a 6-year-old is exposed to things that even adults would have a hard time overcoming. This is trauma at its worst, and there's a trickle-down effect because it affects everyone around them. So my first question is, how does a group of 6-year-olds know what sexual acts look like?
It's the internet,
how to do it?
Matt. It's the internet.
Right.
I hear anybody watching, not watching. Sorry, this isn't on video. Listening to this show,
Listening.
please,
Unless they're staring at our screen.
Which
yes, go ahead.
Maybe
Sorry.
they are. Please, we do have nice faces, but please don't let your kids have phones or computers or tablets or iPads or anything that connects to the internet. For goodness sake, and this is a perfect example why.
And because when you do, right, they innocently come across it. It's very easy, very accessible.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Anywhere. It's suggested everywhere. You can't go on any of these apps and not see stuff like that in your suggested Explore page. It's awful. So, So anyway, now obviously it's funny because now all of a sudden there's this outrage, right? All of a sudden we have our sense of morality back. All of a sudden there's right and there's wrong. All of a sudden there's a punishment here because a 6th grade girl was exposed to something that she shouldn't be exposed to. Well, how come all of a sudden they get that mindset? They didn't get it because
they got caught.
All of a sudden drag is right. Drag is in these drag performances, by the way, they do. And I don't want to read through the captions because it does get a little bit too explicit, but these drag performances with children are not just like a distant show. They often are sometimes they interact with the kids, if you kind of get where I'm going with that. Why is that all right? Right? Where's the outrage there? But for some reason, this sort of stuff is all of a sudden like, oh, we can't have that. This is inappropriate. Well, why? What if we use their own narrative here and just say that this group of boys and this girl, they were just experimenting, right? They were just being open to their sexuality. They were just exploring. What's wrong with that? Why can't I go to that extreme?
Well, I think sexual acts with someone under 18 or whatever is something like 20 years. It's like 20 years in prison. But I mean, like, actually, if you get convicted for it, it's like, I think it's 20, 30 years in prison. And so you have these people go to a public library. I mean, it pretty much, okay, maybe not physically, but for sure emotionally and mentally and, visually committing sexual acts with children. I mean, Matt, what is going on? I can't. It's so crazy. I can't even believe it. And I think so. I think real quick. Yes, I think what we have to remember though is that this is a real minority, and we have to fight it. Now, I mean, I guess fortunately I don't have it so much here, but it's coming. And if it does, I have to be strong enough to say I will go and stand in front of the school and punch a transgender in the face if that's what I've got to do. And if I go to prison, then I go to prison. And I think we have to stand up to fight for something. And if we don't, then, well, the world's going to keep going where it's going.
They say when America sneezes, the world catches a cold, right? But so here's the question that I want to pose to you here to wrap up today. Where do you think this is going to end? Right? We've seen a progression of it all. It's getting worse. Where do you see this going? Do you think that it's going to maybe stop? Do you think that maybe it'll just go away? Do you think that it's going to overtake us? Do you see?
No, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. It's going to turn into gay marriage. It's going to become normalized, and then it's going to disappear. So it's going to become.
What do you mean disappear?
Well, it's not going to disappear, but they're going to let it happen, and then they're not going to comment on it anymore. Because I mean, remember, a lot of the stuff that we know about, we only know about because they want us to know. They report on. I mean, we know that the media channels have an agenda of what they're going to report on. So they report on it because they want us to think about it. And I think eventually it's just not going to be the thing anymore. And they're going to say, okay, we're moving on to whatever the next perversion is, which who knows? Maybe it's animals. I don't know. I mean, and I think that's something else to remember. And I talked about this. Geez, it's only been 2 years ago, which is pretty crazy. But I talked one of the first podcasts about homosexuality and how if you allow that type of perversion and sin, then where will it end? Right? Where's the end? Where's it going to stop? And eventually it's going to become incest. It's going to become with children. It will, because that's where it leads. It's like marijuana, right? It is a gateway drug. And you know that absolutely for sure. And it's a perversion in and of itself, but it will lead to even more disgusting, worse things. And that's for sure. I mean, absolutely sure. So I think they're going to normalize it. I think then it's going to fade away. We're going to kind of forget about it until the next thing. And that next thing, I don't even want to know. And honestly, it may be children. It really might. It may really be saying, well, children are old enough to decide if they're boys or girls. They're old enough to do adult things with, right?
Yeah,
Why
have
not?
their own abortion. Abort yourself.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, why not? I mean, but this is where things go, right? I mean, if we let this happen, it has to spiral out of control because it's perverse. It's against nature. It's against God. It's against truth. And when it gets in this spiral, it can only get worse.
And I think too, that's why the saints in the past, the popes, even governments have taken such drastic action against it because they saw what could be if we allow it. Right. This wasn't something that we should condemn in a statement here. Right. We shouldn't release like a 5-lined, public announcement. We need to burn at the stake. We need to execute. We need to prison. We need to jail. Because they probably saw, right, what happens if you go. We've even seen like with abortion, right? There are cases now, not very popular, but they exist of why can't you kill your child at age 1? Age 2? What's the difference? It's just a late term abortion. And we've seen people kind of explore that. I don't know if it was in England or where, but it's talked about. And so, yeah, these, in the past, they saw where it could go because they saw it as sinful. And if you open this up to sin, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
And if it teaches me anything, having 2 little kids, it's that I will pretty much do anything I can to not let the government get their grubby little fingers, grimy, grubby little fingers on my children. And because again, we see clearly that it's the communistic mentality of, you start it young, right? I mean, you get them as early as possible, and you turn them into pathetic, disgusting, weaklings, and we start to see that with our generations as well, and I think that's something that we have to really know, and we have to really fight, and I think it's really important again to stick together and to know, okay, let's find people who agree with us on this, on these important matters, and let's fight together, because if we're alone, it's a lot harder. If we're together, if we say, hey, we won't let this happen. Now, I'm not saying to go get a gun and go shoot these people. Obviously not. Murder is never good. When we're saying burning at the stake, this is a legal, hey, they go to trial, they have the chance to repent, etc. So keep that in mind. We're not saying to go murder anybody, guys. That's never good. That's never Catholic. It's never good to go and take things into our own hands. But the point being, again, that type of a crime should be punished with that type of a result. And I think that, we got to stick together.
And today is May 8th, Monday, May 8th. So it's the feast, I'm looking at my calendar, of the apparition of St. Michael the Archangel. So more than ever, do we need to pray that most powerful St. Michael prayer.
Ooh, yep, the devil's everywhere.
More than ever.
Devils are everywhere. Well, Matt, that was a pretty dark and depressing show, I must say. But now that we've talked about it at the beginning, we're definitely going to have to do a live show.
I got to have a
foodie show. Yes, I'm excited about this now. I have no idea what to talk about. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a foodie. I'm a pretty good cook. I can definitely. I can pull my own.
I'm sure you are.
I can pull my own in the kitchen. I appreciate good things more so since I've moved to Europe. Honestly, when I was in America, I was a ramen noodle type guy, but but since I've been here, I've got a little more appreciation for the finer things. So let us know if that's something you'd be interested in, and let us know what you thought about today's show. We know it was not super pleasant and fun, but it's everywhere. So it was. We needed to talk about it at some point. I'm glad we did. We probably won't really in the future because I think we said everything we needed to say on the matter. But Matt and I will be back hopefully next Monday. I know we're not super predictable, guys. Sorry. I mean, pretty much if one of us has a super busy weekend, we tend to miss shows because that's how it works at the Catholic Family Podcast. there's no money, there's no contract, so it's just kind of we go.
Right, I do
go
not have a
as we go.
contract.
Matt does not have a contact. One of these days, if
One of these
anyone
days
wants to sponsor, if anyone listening to this wants to sponsor us, we'll be a little more predictable. I'll tell you that right now. Let us know who wants to fork over a couple bucks for Matt and Kevin on Monday mornings. But anyway, thank you all for being with us. Matt, thanks for coming on. Even though, again, it was a bit of a dark topic, I appreciate it. We'll be back next week, maybe something a little bit lighter. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Stay tuned to all that's going on with the Catholic Family Podcast. We've got interviews. We have live streams coming this week. We'll have a live stream of the ordination from Omaha, which is really exciting.
Yes.
5 new priests for the MRI, which is really fantastic. We will be live streaming that, which I think will be, that's on Thursday, I believe, the 11th at, something like 11 a.m. Eastern time or so on Thursday. So anyone who's able to watch that, do so. In Germany, that's something like 5 p.m., 4 p.m., somewhere around that time. I'll let you guys know as the time comes. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think about our live show idea. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe we'll go in the kitchen live show, cooking our favorite stuff or something.
Live cooking,
yeah. Let's do it. I'm excited for it. Matt, I appreciate it. Until next time,
sir.
God bless you.
Thank you for listening. Tune in every Monday at 9 Eastern for a brand new episode.
Make the world Catholic again.